In today's episode, Courtney and I sit down with Jim Ruta, life insurance expert, and we talk about all things life insurance. This episode is absolutely incredible. We're going to be going into, hey, how do you help consumers out with life insurance? How do you own the space? How do you become that go-to life insurance professional? So with that being said, let's start the show. Hey, welcome to the Insurance Buzz. We are your hosts, Michael and Courtney Weaver, and we have a very special guest with us today, Jim Ruta. Jim, how are you?
Hey, I am great. Thanks, folks. I'm delighted to be with you today.
We are freaking stoked about this podcast episode.
We're going to be talking about life insurance.
All things life insurance.
No, not that. Anyway, there we go.
Okay, I want to jump right in because in your bio, you mentioned that you are on a mission to preserve, promote, and propel the life insurance industry. So
Yes.
I want to start with, what's the problem? What's wrong with it as it is right now?
Well, okay. So, I mean, it's funny. This is a very interesting thing for me. I have been around this business since 1977. So I've had a chance to see pretty much everything. One of the things that happened in the early 80s was the blurring of the lines between what were traditionally the pillars, the four major pillars in the financial services business. So there were the insurance companies, there were the banks, there were trust companies, and there were certainly stock brokerages. And over the 80s and into the 90s, all of that kind of merged into one. And then all of a sudden, the industry, we didn't have life insurance agents anymore. No, we had financial advisors, financial planners, financial consultants, financial something or other. And they've all become very high end, except the problem that I see is that for the most part, being able to do all of those things, everything that we're in all the other disciplines in the financial services space, really exceeds the ability of pretty much anybody who tries it. It's really impossible to be all things to all people. I will say this to a lot of folks. I said this, I was recently in Warsaw, Poland, telling them the same story. You can't say, my name is Dr. James W. Ruta. I'm a doctor of all theologies. I do cardiology, rheumatology, urology. I do proctology. I do astrology because it sounds the same. I do neurology. I even do geology in case you have rocks in your head. Yes, sirree, I do all theologies. No doctor would do that. But for some reason in our business, we have put it all together. So for me, Courtney, the idea to preserve the business is to say, you know what? There is something to be said for a life insurance professional. There is something to be said for the estate planners of the world. And it's a separate specialty. And not just a specialty, but it's a very, very important thing. And when you start to water it down by bringing it together with everything else, then it becomes sadly kind of like the ugly stepsister of the whole outfit. And then it starts to be played with as simply risk management. And frankly, it is so much more than that. It drives me nuts. So for me, the idea is to preserve the noble profession of selling life insurance as a profession on its own, to work with other experts to provide the best possible service for the consumer. And that, to me, is the center of all of this. So I say preserve, promote the advisor as being part of that team approach that we work together. Hey, you know what? You can work with a banker. You can work with a stockbroker. You can work with the accountants and the attorneys. You can work with those folks. If we know our spots and we become good, we should own this space and then propel. Finally, preserve, promote, and propel is to propel their results and to make them more effective, more helpful, because I believe that when you help more, you'll sell more. Courtney?
That was fantastic. So when you talk about owning this space, I hear all of this and I'm excited. I'm like, yes. How would you advise somebody to own the space? What would that look like?
Well, first of all, it's difficult. Look, when I started, I was a 21-year-old when I first walked into a life insurance agency in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. So, for me, it didn't really, it was a sort of, My mother, I was 21. My mother cried when I told her I want to be a life insurance agent. For this, we put you through university, Jim. Really? That's what you're doing? But it was, and my dad said, wait a minute, if I understand you, because I had a government job. He says, so you've got a government job and a government pension, a government car, and you want to give that up for this? Is that what? That? And he says, Mary, we've made some serious mistakes with this boy, but it's the best we've got. So that's what I had to live with. But when I look at it, I really want today to say that if you want to own the space, say you have to own the idea that you can help people with what I call their essential financial security. See, these are things that come before financial planning and financial independence discussions. It's like making sure that if something, God forbid, were to happen to you, your spouse, your kids, whatever, that your family is protected and that they're not exposed to insurable threats while we waltz around doing grandiose planning and then have all help. And it's happened to me. It's probably happened to you. Surely everybody knows this. While we're planning, it's like, man plans and God laughs. And there we have it. And then you go, well, if we had put the plan together, yeah, but it took you 6 months to get that far. I'm saying there are some things. And if we can own this, be confident. It's what I do. Michael, Courtney, I want people to say, damn, this is a business. You can be helpful. And it's important. It's every bit as important as saving up your pennies in your IRA and all that, whatever else in your investment. It's every bit as important as that.
Amen.
Maybe more important. In fact, I say it is more important because to me, you see, life insurance is more important than financial planning because it underpins, it guarantees financial planning. So we've gotten lost since the 80s, and I've watched this. We got lost. So my job, preserve, propel that business. And if you own the space, Courtney, what I'm saying is you're confident, you believe in the value, and you're looking for people who believe in the value too. When I was a young man, I was going back some 30 some years in the business. I remember I was carrying at that time more than $2 million worth of life insurance. And someone said to me, Jimmy, what's the matter with you? Are you buddy, are you nuts? Like you're worth way more dead than alive. Jim, why would you have $2 million worth of life insurance? I said, well, frankly, it's actually quite simple because what I believe is that $2 million will give my widow a better choice of daddies for my kids. You see, rich widows can do whatever they want. Poor widows are forced to make bad decisions. That's kind of been the story for me all along.
I'm also worth much more dead than alive.
So am I.
Michael, I spent my life making darn sure I was worth way more alive than I was dead. That $2 million or $3, whatever it is today, it just won't generate the same cash that I can.
Yep.
So I got to stay ahead of my life insurance value. It's another reason to have the stuff.
That's right.
You to do more work.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
So, having said that, I have had that chat with Courtney, and she did mention that, just offhanded, but she did mention it.
Yeah, I got to watch myself every night. Got to make sure the pillows.
I'm gonna be a rich widow, baby.
But you're spot on with this. And so you said something though that's really interesting. You said we got a little lost since the 80s. I would love to know what you mean by that because I also believe that at its core, life insurance is a paycheck income protector. Without life insurance, nothing else really matters in a financial plan. You can't have a financial plan without life insurance, and not even necessarily about the savings of the life insurance plan. To the core, what happens if you die tomorrow? What is your family's plan? And so I'd love to just know a little bit about what you mean by we've got lost since the 80s.
Yeah, I think, look, When I remember Gus Hunch, I think created the FNA2 in Southern California, going back to the late 70s, and the FNA and the FNA and then financial needs analysis, the FNA2. I mean, the CFP was created, I think, Centennial, Colorado, that sort of thing. And what was this all about? I think it was because people were embarrassed to talk about a difficult subject. Nobody wanted to talk about life insurance. So they felt badly. So we invented other things to talk around it. And then we would just sort of throw that in because we were embarrassed. I got to tell you something. In my experience, the people who are really embarrassed about life insurance are the people who try to sell life insurance. Not so much everybody else. Well, I'd like to know. I'd like to understand. And I think part of this comes because, it's like me saying, well, gee, Michael, do you what? You don't want to buy any life insurance, do you? No? Oh, good. Thank gosh, because the paperwork is a killer. It's just not worth it. Thank goodness. So we go to people without appreciating the product's great socioeconomic value. This issue around paycheck protection is, of course, important, but there's so much more to it than that. And that's the other thing that's gotten lost over the years and now it's been also co-opted by a few other ideas too. But generally speaking, the interesting thing I find about cash value life insurance, which has another purpose altogether, which is this purpose beyond just simply risk management, that paycheck thing, is that when used as intended, tax exempt cash value life insurance returns every dollar you ever put in, and then some. So that isn't even spending money. That's not an expense. It's actually a contribution to an asset. But if you dismiss the whole concept, it can play no role in the planning. So we got lost because we said, well, we're not, this was kind of like the A.L. Williams stuff of the 80s, which was buy term, invest the difference. And that became the whole story. And I'm not, look, buy term, invest, God bless you, fill your hat. If you're going to buy term, good. I'm with you. I'm not even going to fight that battle. I think that war's over. What interests me is we gotten lost and we don't see all the value. We don't realize. There was something, I was at a conference the other day and they were talking about how the expected trajectory of population over the next 20 years is not continually up. 6 billion, 7 billion, 8 billion, 9 billion, 15 billion. It's not like that. Apparently, it'll actually turn down, in which case continuous growth may be impossible in the very near future, in the next generation. What does that mean? That means life insurance may need to be there just to keep your kids and my grandkids sort of flush financially so they can absorb what'll go on as real estate values drop. If there's nobody buying real estate, property values will go. If nobody's buying enough product, then the markets will drop. You think about what that could be if the population turns around. So there's a lot of other values, but because life insurance is this part of a picture that's that big, let's say, in the financial, we don't have any depth. We're like an inch deep and a mile wide here. But if we were like a foot wide and 5 miles deep, which is how it used to be, the business changes. And all of a sudden, we have a toolkit that is so valuable for the average person, the average consumer. No, look, I work with a group of guys that are making $20-30 million a year. And, so they're talking about the ultra high net, the uber high, net worth marketplace and all of this. I'm thinking about, the mass affluent, the people, mom and dad, a few kids, mortgages, whatever. What can we do for them? How can we educate them? How do we help them? So we've gotten lost, to your earlier point. We got lost because we have tried to really be too much to all people, and we've lost the focus on this extraordinary product that nothing else does. A stroke of a pen, as they used to say, and a drop of ink, and a tiny deposit can create millions of dollars for families who need it most and have it least. Man, there ain't nothing that does that.
This is the last day for the early bird pricing for the 30 Life in 5 Days challenge. Make sure you take advantage today. This challenge will sell out. This guarantees your spot in the challenge. It also gives you an opportunity to save money. Who doesn't like to save money? What you're going to learn in this challenge is how to have a life insurance conversation with every customer interaction every single time. It doesn't matter if it's a new business P&C sales conversation. It doesn't matter if you're intentionally prospecting your current book of business, turning those service transactions into life insurance sales opportunities. How about those appointments? We review and cover it all, and how to start the conversation, how to overcome those initial objections, what questions you should be asking to get the customer emotionally involved in the conversation, how to educate your customer on life insurance, how to ask for the sell. You get playbooks, you get scripts, you get it all. Make sure you take advantage of the early bird pricing today. Guarantee your spot in the 30 Life in 5 Days challenge and get off to a smoking hot start when it comes to life insurance in 2024. Let's go. Do you think it's because we've gotten to such a transactional type of selling model especially over the last decade? I'm sure that you've also seen this, especially with I feel like your bigger carriers that do try to be everything to everyone, and they push a lot of apps. But when you're pushing lots of apps, you're not necessarily concentrated on the conversation and what actually life insurance can do for an individual. So my question, I guess, would be to reframe this is what should agents be doing today that they're not doing to get to the point where what you're talking about right now? Where do you see them missing the boat?
Well, look, I think a part of it is that the only way to make life insurance a big part of your business and to really work on it is to focus on it. And to me, look, I work with something I call icon protocol. And these are ICON. So an icon is somebody recognized as a representative symbol of what it means to be the best. It's like Elvis Presley in music, Michael Jackson, that sort of iconic. You know what they're talking about instantly when they mention those names. So you want to be an icon in this business. You need to have so it's ICON. It's also an acronym for what it means to be the best in the business. And the first part of it is inspiration. I think advisors have to be inspired. If you want to help families to do this stuff properly, if you want to help protect families, that has to be something that really inspires you. You see, if I'm inspired, I will be attractive to you. If what I say, if I'm heated up, then you'll get heated up. That creates urgency in you. But if like I said before, I was like, you don't want to buy any insurance, life insurance.
Enthusiasm sells, baby.
If that's what you wanted, if that's how you come at it, they ain't doing it. I don't know what's the matter with people. They just don't want to do anything. Yeah, but they don't know anything. See, that's the other thing. People know what life insurance is. They don't know what it does. We have to help them understand what it does. And so, by the way, I work with a guy from Milwaukee, my good friend Van Miller, who does about 1,200 life apps a year. But to think that he's not helping families because he's doing a lot of apps is a mistake. I mean, he does more good in 1 year than most advisors will do in their career.
Lifetime. Yep.
For sure. Right? Because he knows what he's doing. And again, there's an approach to that. There's a style to that, which is not necessarily the style of the business today. Well, at the base of the pyramid is this financial plan. We spend 3 or 4 months doing that. And then maybe if we can keep people awake during the process long enough, then maybe they will step into the next step here. But instead, if we look at it, what I call it, when I develop with my people, when I talk about it as essential financial security. What are those things that you can do because you want to? Since it always drove me nuts. I just bought a new iPhone 15 Pro, and for whatever I think it cost, $1,500 or whatever it was. I can sign up for that. I can sign my plan. I spend about $350 a month. I didn't have to do a budget. I didn't have to do anything. Nobody had to check to see if that was a good idea. But if somebody wanted to sell life insurance like that and say, well, here's a $1,500 down payment and $350 a month, well, and you didn't go through all kinds of histrionics, people, compliance would have a nervous breakdown. No, I'm not saying compliance is bad. I'm not. It's good. It's because what's compliance? Compliance is making sure you take care of your clients. And as John Savage, the late John Savage from Toledo, Ohio said, he said, here's the rule. You take care of your clients first, last, and always, and they'll always take care of you. 100%. Take care of your clients. What I'm saying is life insurance, those millions of dollars that we can offer those folks is a very important part of that. And you can work. You see, I just came from the Middle East and I was working with a guy in Dubai. And this guy says to me, he says, one of the biggest things we have to stop doing in the future is competing with everybody. I thought, and this guy, by the way, last year he did 500 times MDRT. I'll say that again, 500 times MDRT. His goal this year is to double that. Yes, I'm going, what?
Dang.
He says, but I will never compete with anybody. If I come up against you, Michael, or Courtney, then you know what? Let's find a way to work this together. If you want to handle it, just give me a piece of the action, and I'm on. I'm on my way. Let's help the client, and let's help more clients. That's what's happened. We've lost track of helping enough clients because it's not that we have too many apps going on, in my experience. I'm sure there are people that are just rattling things off, and it's, of course, well, we're still in the middle of the Medicare enrollment period, I know, in the U.S., and so a lot of that stuff going on, and people try to convert those people into life sales and not winning much, sadly, but they're trying. No, the problem is that the number of life sales per advisor in this country is barely 15 on average. And it's not much better in the United States either, because mostly we're kind of average, which is what? The best of the worst and the worst of the best. Hmm. And like I said to my audience all the time, look, if you want to be average, no help is necessary. Just keep doing whatever you're doing. It's perfect. You'll get there. If you want to do average, just keep on doing it. However, if you want to be awesome, if you don't want to be mediocre, if you want to be magnificent, then you get involved in programs like we have, because that'll take you to another level, so you don't get lost. Michael?
So they're not investing in themselves.
Oh, of course not.
So the number one reason you think that an advisor or life insurance agent is struggling right now is because they haven't done the work on themselves to be the advisor or agent that they need to be.
I think that's ridiculously true. And if you look at all the Facebook groups that I'm involved in, through the U.S. on, what are they trying to do? Where can I buy the best leads? Does your upline supply the best leads? How much do they charge for their leads? I'm going, damn it, that's the only job you have. The only real job you have is finding people that you can help. And these leads routinely. Now, look, I also know a guy in Southern California who does extraordinarily well, like that, ridiculous, and he's found a way. But those are unicorns. Mm-hmm. That's not the business, in my opinion. And I've been wrong once or twice, maybe even now. Actually, what's that story? I thought I was wrong once, but I was mistaken. So there we are. But that's my view of it. I think if you can learn how to be a prospect, by the way, if you were inspired enough to attract people, and believe me, that's what it has to be. I mentioned John Savage. You look at a guy like that guy, whatever he was doing, you wanted to do it. And I knew John personally. He's been dead for 30 years. It doesn't even seem possible. But he was extraordinary. And there are, Ben Feldman in the day, the Ben Feldman. I used to work with his son, Marv, who has since retired, which tells you how long this has been going on. But these were people that helped amazing amounts. They helped people dramatically, and they were paid dramatically. But they were life insurance advisors. The best people I know today are not those people who, like I said, they're not a doctor of all the ologies. They don't sell everything. They don't. You don't look at the back of their business card. It includes everything they could possibly do because of your license. These are people who have figured out. These are the people I want to work with. Here's how I want to help them, and I put it together, and everybody's happy.
And Marv Feldman, he actually wrote a book. One of my favorite life insurance books I read really early on in my career. I believe it was called Man on a Mission. Don't quote me on this, but I believe it was called Man on a Mission by Marv Feldman. If you're listening to this right now, I highly recommend that book. It kind of changed the way I look. That's it right there.
He was looking at his bookshelf
I
too. That's awesome.
I had to struggle over to reach out of my bookcase. Here's Marv's book.
Yep.
Man on a Mission. If you want to know something about this business, by the way, this is a book full of questions. I was watching some video from you, Michael, about I ask questions because I want to know where they are. A book full of questions. Now, Marv has since retired. Marv and I are good friends, but it's a kind of thing where I think for, I don't know, $20 or something, whatever. If it was $100, it would be cheap.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Because this book, A Man on a Mission, is extraordinary. And it's kind of like my whole thing here is preserve, promote, and propel the business. His job was to preserve, promote, and propel your business as a family person, as a business owner. That was his job. So A Man on a Mission, extraordinary book from an extraordinary man. And it's absolutely tremendous value. It's still available. Anybody has trouble getting it, I'll make sure I'll get it. I'll ask Marv. But we can get it. Hardcover, tremendous book. All questions.
It's incredible. It changed, honestly, my life insurance career and how I looked at life insurance. It's an incredible book.
Absolutely true.
Go out, buy it now. Don't think. Buy that thing today.
Yes. I think you can get it on Amazon. Just go. Just go.
So I want to finish with the ICON acronym. So we started with I for inspiration. I have to know what the C, O, and N are.
So inspiration is the first part of this. So if you're inspired, all great advisors I know, Marv Feldman, Ben Feldman, Van Miller, you pick anybody, Cody Askins, those folks. There's just so many, but they're all inspired. It's not just that they're in the business is in them, and they have found an idea, a concept that they just take to the street every day. It's like I've written articles about this, about how everything you need to know about this business, you can learn in the shower in the morning by reading your shampoo bottle. Right? What does it say? It says lather, rinse, repeat. That's the job. But that's the job. Lather them up, get them excited, inspire them, rinse, repeat. That's easy. So inspire, number one, inspiration. So if you're inspired, you will be inspiring. Number two is communication. This is a communication business. My buddy Tom Hagner, Van Miller will say, this is a words, stories, and questions business. To your point earlier, Michael, do we have enough? Have we invested in ourselves? Have we read this book? Do we know what's going on? Or have we just, maybe I'll get it, and no. You've got to dig right in. So the words, stories, questions, and communication. Can you deliver it? Can you deliver it like you mean it? And I'm not even kidding about how some people, they don't know how to communicate, and they would say things like, I had a guy, I said this twice already, but I'll say it again. The guy I was in Vancouver coaching this guy, and he says, Jim, I just don't know. Somehow I don't see any urgency to buy any insurance out there these days. I don't know. They just don't want to. Nobody wants to do anything. I don't know why. Can't really tell. I asked them. They don't want to. I said, "Are you waiting for them to want to buy? The urgency should come from them. What are you doing, Doug? Wake up!" So communication. Prospecting is communication. How do I attract people? When I communicate, that's how I get people in. If I can't communicate, I can't do anything. They'll say, well, I don't want to do any public speaking. No, you should do public speaking. It scares the hell out of me. Fine. You know what they do at Quantico with the FBI and the CIA? What they say there is this. They say, we want to make people comfortable being uncomfortable. That's probably the key word of this business, isn't it? becoming
Yep.
comfortable doing the uncomfortable. It's hard to ask people to buy. It's hard when they tell you to go pound sand or go
Shit,
fly a kite.
I would say
It's hard.
that's the key word to life. Get comfortable getting uncomfortable, baby. Like
Maybe
shit.
that's where it's at. So
Yeah.
inspiration, communication. Then it's organization. You have to be organized to create the results that you want. You need an organized sales presentation. You need an organized business. You need an organized week. There's so much organization we have to have. I talk about a 340 strategy on how you organize your year. But you have to be organized because organization is what creates consistency. And consistency is what delivers results. So
Amen.
if you're disorganized, you'll be inconsistent. And anybody who knows anything knows that's just way too true.
Yeah.
Right? Inspiration, communication, organization, finally, numeration, the numbers. I need to set my goals. I need to measure my activity. I need to record my activity. I need to monitor my activity. I need to report my activity, even if it's to my assistant, even if it's to my mother. Phone your wife, phone your husband, phone your partner, phone your cousin. I don't care. Report it. It has this one thing between recording and reporting your activity. And I don't mean your sales. I mean the work you're doing. You need, as somebody would say, by the way, a fixed activity commitment. Fixed means I have a friend who's since retired. He's 90, just retired. His rule was this: 25 phone calls every day before noon. He wouldn't do anything, wouldn't talk to anybody else. 25 calls every morning. 25. The guy was a charter member at the top of the table. Extraordinary producer in an extraordinary marketplace, in downtown Toronto, Canada. Extraordinary. So we need to measure this and monitor. That can just monitoring and measuring, like recording and measure and just sort of recording and reporting activity can increase your production by 200 to 300%. People go, well, that's not true. I recorded all my phone calls last week and nothing happened. Yeah, because that isn't it, Bob. We don't do it for a week. Try it for a year. Try that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. That's very hectic. I don't know if I have the time for that. Well, see, I said this. Here's a great point that I know I'm dragging. So numeration, by the way, before I get to this point, but numeration is such an important part of that. So you record so it's the goals, it's the activity goals, you report the activity, you keep track of your numbers. Am I making more? The best people in the world, by the way, very inspired, great communicators, ridiculously well organized, even if they don't do it, and they know everything. How many sales you make last week, Van Miller? 51. 51? Yeah, I did. I had 77 appointments. What? But he knows. Why? Because that's what top performers do. Something I've been opening a couple of my presentations recently with this line, and I love it. How long does it take for an average person to become a life insurance agent? Always.
How long does it take?
Well, here's the point. The average person will never become a life insurance agent. I twicked you guys. But isn't that true? Isn't that true?
Yeah.
The average person won't do this. Alfred E.N. Gray in his great piece, if you don't have it, look it up. Send me an email. Send it to you. Alfred E. The common denominator of success. What did Gray say? He said something like this. He said, successful people will learn to do by habit what unsuccessful people won't do by nature.
Mm.
Oh, that's what I mean. If you're average, you ain't doing this. I swear, look, I was 22 years old when I was a full-time agent, a young agent. I remember making phone. Hey, Jim, you've got to talk to 25 people a day. I'm 22. Like, what do I know about this? Nothing. But I swear, Courtney, by about 16 calls, I am now crying. I am tired of people hanging up, telling me to go pound sand. I'm tired. I don't know. But the difference was the guy who told me that I had to make 25 calls, I believe. I believed that guy. I said, but I got to keep doing it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You see, and that's what's missing in this business. That's how we've gotten lost. Well, I won't have to do I won't do any prospecting. I'll just put out a couple of good posts on Facebook, and then people will come running to
Sure.
me. Right?
Post and pray.
Right? That's it. By the way, think about this. I have done, and I will today do my 352nd consecutive Monday Facebook Live at JW Ruta. You can find me. 352nd, I think it is. If I'm not mistaken. It took me 300 before anybody knew I was doing them.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, I get the $1 million roundtable saying, hey, could you do some of those for us? We like that. That was like, I think, 250, 230 or something in, 220 in. So everything works, as the story goes, just so long as you do.
Mm-hmm.
If you work, even Facebook can work or LinkedIn. But you have to work too. Don't just send me a check for $3,000 and tell me that, and then I will send you leads, and you suppose that will be good enough. It's not.
No magic bullet and there's no secret sauce, baby. Just do the work.
Do the work.
Yeah.
Put the effort in, man.
I was having a conversation with somebody and they were talking about how they got into agency because they wanted more freedom. And as the conversation went along, I said, you realize that if you want freedom to drive the car, then discipline has to ride shotgun. That's the only way that works, because if
I love that
discipline
line.
isn't in the car, then it's chaos. Like, if you want freedom, you have to have discipline riding shotgun, or it's just chaos.
100%. Freedom is not just running around supposing it'll all happen. It's the only real freedom in life is being committed to something you believe in and sticking with it. That's the only freedom in life. And we have, talking, Michael, how do we get lost? We get lost with all of that stuff. We think the whole world is, I have a partner, Mark Helper, and says, we think it's all instant coffee. Well, yeah, you just take a spoon of that in there and coffee. I get some prospect and boom, business. Wrong, but thanks for coming out. Thanks for playing. You still lose. It's not like that. It just isn't. And it still requires the effort. No effort, no results.
And not just effort, tremendous effort.
Stacked
I've never
over and over and
met
over
a
again.
wildly successful person in any industry that hasn't had to put in an incredible amount of effort, time, patience,
Persistence.
Just do the work.
You need a degree of visceral aptitude. No guts, no glory, no risk, no riches. But you've got to be putting yourself out there every day. You can't. And Michael, your point is exactly well taken. It's not just life insurance business people. It's business people of it. It's not just business.
It's life.
You want to be a great teacher, put yourself out there. You want to be a great doctor, extend yourself. That's how this works. Life is not just, like I said, instant coffee. Well, I got the right brand here and I got a little bit of hot water. No, it don't work like that. I wish it did. Early in my career, early in your career, you get to thinking, maybe it does, but it doesn't. But it doesn't. No. Don't be lying to me. That does not work. You can't do that.
You know what's funny, though, is the thing that you said earlier, like it resonates so well with me, is the pound sand. I got told to pound sand so many times making cold calls, but that does something to you. One, it's going to build character. All right. Two, it teaches you how to increase your skill level. Like by doing the activity over and over, your skills automatically going to increase. Now, you can take the long road or you can do the short road a little bit where you hire someone to where you don't have to go through as many struggles like yourself and myself to shorten that gap, to quicken the gap to where you can start seeing success versus you're still going to learn though. Don't get me wrong here. You're still going to go through the trials and tribulations of pound sand, no thank you, keep making the calls. But by investing in yourself, going back to what you said way earlier in the podcast, if you're not willing to invest in yourself, our customer is going to be willing to invest in you.
And there's two things here, just quickly. I know we're running to the very end of our time here, but honestly, the one thing that's really important is that we have to understand. I see. I didn't understand it as a young agent when I was in my 20s. I didn't understand. I thought that if I was a decent person, and I think I still am, and if I used a decent script, and if I said the right things, and I asked the right kind of people, that everybody would say yes. And the bottom line is, it doesn't work. It's kind of like the story of Paul Marcarelli. Do you know Paul Marcarelli?
Don't.
Well, now, actually, you do. Paul Marcarelli is the Verizon guy. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Right? Can you hear me now? Paul Marcarelli is the Verizon guy. And really, what this is all about, if someone had said, Jim, look, here's the story. Not everybody can hear you when you call. In fact, 1 out of 10 may hear you. Your job is to keep calling until they can hear you. That would have changed my perception of what it takes to be an advisor. You see, I thought I was wrong, or the company was bad, or my product was bad, or something. That's not it. It's the bottom line is that people cannot hear you because of their own problems, because of what's going on in their minds. And the only way to find out if they can hear you is by continuing to call. So I have lots of I know guys making $20-30 million a year, and they will keep calling clients until, as one guy says, I'll keep calling until the guy tells me to go fly a kite. And I don't think he said that, but you know what I'm getting at. And he said,
You can drop it on here. Yeah.
And I'll wait. No, I wouldn't do it, but I would wait. He said, until then, or until I decide I no longer like the guy, I'm not going to call him back. Because how many people have you said, Michael, I'm so glad you kept on me, because you know what? I'd have never done this.
Yeah.
I'd have never taken care of my family, except that you stuck with me. Courtney, if you hadn't kept calling, I'd have thought it didn't matter that much. But it does matter. Thank you. God bless you for helping me help my own family. That's what this business is about. And that's what I'm going right back to the beginning. Preserve, promote, and propel the noble profession of selling life insurance. It's not a sideline. It's not, and God forbid, it's not a side hustle. If I want to if I see that on Facebook, I want to go straight down Facebook and grab that person by the neck.
Yep.
Well, I got a life insurance side hustle. It's not a side hustle. It's not. And it shouldn't be.
It's the most noble profession in the world.
100%.
Woo!
So good.
Jim, this has been great. If someone wanted to follow you, connect with you, support you, work with you, how do they do that?
So there's a number of places you can do this. You can find me at advisorcraft.com, advisorcraft.com. You can find me at solisstars.com, SOLIS stars.com. We have a program called Power of Platinum, as it turns out, Power of Platinum, something like this. My buddy Mark and I, powerofplatinum.com. You can find me there. You can also find me on Facebook, which I think, and on LinkedIn, of course, easy on LinkedIn. Facebook, a little different. I'm at JW Ruta on Facebook, and there I have hundreds of free videos on how to be a better entrepreneur, how to be a better life insurance agent, just how to be better in business. I've been doing that for many years. And so you can find me that way. I'm easy to find, and I am happy to help. It's what I do.
You can tell. You can tell. Jim, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for your time today. It was incredible.
It's been my great pleasure. I wish you all the very best. And to everybody who's watching, God bless you all. The world needs you. The goofier it gets out there, the more they need you to help them pick their way down the rough and rocky road. So here's the deal. Just go be amazing.
Amen. For all of those of you that are listening today, thank you so much for your time. As always, time is the most valuable and important asset that we truly do have, and we appreciate you spending your day and time with us today. Go out and make it great.